Here are the horoscopes for the week of the 16th to the 22nd of June 2014. We're coming out of the full moon in Sagittarius, so we have a 2-week phase where the moon is now waning. So this is classically when we can realise what happened at the full moon, what came up for reflection, and therefore what we are holding on to and what we can let go of. So there's a cleansing phase with that, which goes perfectly with the rest of the week. So by Tuesday, Wednesday, we have Mercury returning retrograde into Gemini. Now Mercury went into Gemini on the 30th of May, so we may be taken back to that time to see what's changing. Something is up for revisal now, because when we work with Mercury retrograde, we actually get information through other channels, which then helps us revise our perspective. So the whole week really is dedicating to revisiting the past, especially when it's to do with the gap between emotions, which is Cancer, and thoughts and memories, which is Gemini. So we're going back to our thoughts and memories, taking us back to emotions from the past to revisit them. Now quite often what's happened is that we've taken something too personally and on too much of an emotional level way back in the past, and then a story has accumulated around it, and we've added further experiences to it until we've made it into a bit of an identity. And if you were to revisit the initial experience with new eyes, you probably see that it wasn't that big, it wasn't that personal, it wasn't that important to begin with, but it's just the accumulating snowballing effect that has turned it into some kind of story or drama today. So this whole week is very good for us to reconnect with our thoughts, reconnect with our memories, the emotional attachment that's built up, and to go back with clear eyes and to revisit and to rethink and to review. So by Tuesday, Wednesday, that will really be the theme, and with the moon waning, then that's a chance for us to actually rinse out some of our cells and to get rid of the attachment and the emotional power of some of those stories, because we're only supposed to get the seed of the lesson rather than to build it into a whole life story. So everything is about perspective this week, because by the end of the week we are coming into the summer solstice, and the Shakespeare play Midsummer Night's Dream is all about the eve of Midsummer Night, when the world is actually standing still for a day on its axis, metaphorically, and everything can seem upside down and inside out. Everything is between the realms, everything is fantasy and illusion on a certain level. So we can go into that energy and we can see, well, what is everything like if we look at it from the other perspective, kind of through the looking glass way of thinking. What is life like? What's our perspective like if we look at the opposite side of the story? Because Gemini is a story of the twins. It's the story of the light half of the year and the dark half of the year. But in the metaphysics, it's the law of polarity, which says that things might seem like complete opposites, but they're actually two ends of the same scale. So one good fun thing to do when the sun's going through Gemini, and with Mercury retrograde in Gemini, and coming up to the summer solstice at the weekend, that's the 21st to the 24th, is to actually try on the other shoe. If something seems too far one way, then what does it look like if you turn around and look at it in a completely opposite perspective, just to get that range, just to get that sense of scale. So the summer solstice is a beautiful period. It's, like I say, it's 4 days. It's quite a magical feeling if you can stop and stand still amidst all this Gemini activity. But the sun will be passing from Gemini into Cancer. So we have the waning moon, we have Mercury retrograding from Cancer into Gemini, and then we have the sun passing from Gemini into Cancer. So those two are going in almost the opposite direction. So it's a story of opposites this week. It's a story to actually find the fusion, which is the job of Gemini, and to also see the bigger picture and to see into the invisible realms, which is the job of Mercury retrograde. So things don't have to make sense all the time. It would be quite dull if they did. This is more of a chance to have a look at the nonsensical, because there may be a grain of truth in there. They say that the fool is the wisest player in the play. So to consider the impossible or the improbable or the opposite in quite a fun and a light-hearted way as we come to the weekend will actually show us where we may have gone too far off on a tangent, and we can come back and we can find that fusion with ourselves, so that we've got the full choice, the full range of choices that we can make once we come back to the centre. So it's all quite quizzical, it's all quite light and summery. It's a beautiful time of year with the long nights, the long hours of daylight in the UK. But with the outside activity of Gemini and the very deep and reflective cellular revisiting of the Cancerian energy, it's almost like we can go back before we can go forwards. It's a revisiting, it's a looking at the story that we've built up. It's even laughing at ourselves at how complicated we can make life when things are actually quite simple. So that's the general gist of the week: letting go, releasing with the moon, going backwards with Mercury retrograde and clearing out our emotional closet, and then stepping over that solstice period, but not having to make it make sense or push forward or make plans, but just have a look at the play that's going on around us, have a look at all the different aspects of it. It's almost like you're staring into a diamond and you're seeing all the different colours refracting, because by next week there'll be a little more letting go to do, but there'll be a bit more clarity as we go over that solstice period and into the height of the year. So really genuine, gentle, funny and young energy when we can go back and refresh ourselves and reconnect with our inner child and let go of some of the weight and the density, so that we can actually hang out at the top of the zodiac at the Gemini Cancer cusp while the world holds its breath, stepping over that vital point. And then we are into a new forward motion from next week onwards. So those are the horoscopes for this week, and I'll see you next week.